It was one of those bone-dry, gray mornings in Lagos where the air stings your skin and you wonder if the city's going to chew you up or spit you out, and honestly, I was 8 days overdue, so the waiting, the hoping, it all felt like an itch I couldn't scratch. Contractions hit me like thunderclaps, sharp and deep, rolling through my spine at 4:30 in the morning. I shook Tanji awake, breathing hard, clutching my belly, and said, "It's time." He just nodded, not a single word of comfort, just got dressed and started the car. The silence in that Toyota Camry was thick, the city asleep except for the occasional Danfo flashing by, and the traffic lights blinking like they didn't care about anyone's emergencies. We pulled up to the emergency entrance at LUTH, and I swear, the second he turned off the ignition, my whole world shifted. He didn't meet my eyes, just muttered, "I need to go with my parents, there's a family emergency," then stepped out, shut the door, and walked away. Not a look back, not a hand to hold, just gone. I sat in that back seat in active labor, hands clawing the door handle, crying so hard my voice cracked. I called his phone again and again twice, 5 times, 10 no answer. I texted, begging, desperate, but nothing. I might as well have vanished from his world that morning. You know what's wild? Even now, I remember whispering to my swollen belly, "Hold on, just a little longer." Then, out of nowhere, this middle-aged woman spots me and shouts, "Nurse! Nurse!" Suddenly, a whole squad of nurses and a security guard rush out with a stretcher, pulling me into the hospital, everyone moving fast like in some movie. I was barely conscious, sweat pouring down my back, pain knifing through me. One nurse rose, I learned later held my hand, kept saying, "Breathe. You're strong. Just hold on. You and your baby will be fine." And I tried, I really did, but inside I was waiting for Tanji to come crashing through those double doors, explaining everything, holding my hand, telling me he was sorry. He never did. I gave birth alone. Just me and Nurse Rose, who held my hand when I screamed. There was no proud father waiting outside, no one to carry his child. When they finally wrapped my daughter in a blanket and handed her to me, a younger nurse brought in paperwork. "Madam, we can't find your records." "Who brought you here?" she asked. My voice was barely a whisper, my husband. He said he'd handle everything. She looked at me, exchanged glances with the others, then quietly slipped out. I stared at my baby, her little lips puckering like she was dreaming of milk, and whispered, "It's just us now, isn't it?" That evening, Nurse Rose came by again. She hesitated, then leaned in and said, "I shouldn't say this, but your husband didn't leave for a family emergency. He traveled." I blinked, the words washing over me like cold water, but I didn't cry. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling fans spinning overhead, my daughter breathing softly beside me, and felt every piece of myself shatter. The woman I'd been, a one who made excuses for Tanji, who believed tomorrow would be different, that woman was gone. I replayed his lie in my head, the way he avoided my eyes, the way he left me suffering in a hospital bed, while he what? Probably sipped a cold drink poolside in Obudu, with his mother smiling beside him. Mama Tanji never liked me, not in 4 years of marriage, always finding ways to say I was too outspoken, too modern, too everything for her precious son. He always listened to her, changed our honeymoon plans for her, ignored my birthday for her, even picked the color of our baby's room for her. I let it all slide, believing love meant sacrifice, but leaving me alone to give birth? That wasn't love. That was abandonment. No calls, no texts, nothing. I looked at my daughter, took a shaky breath, and decided, right then, I would never let him define who I became after this. The next morning, as I filled out forms, a nurse smiled gently and asked, "We need the father's signature. Has he arrived yet?" I could only shake my head. "No, he's not coming." She paused, then handed me a new form, said, "If you choose to do it alone, we'll help you." I looked at the empty space for the father's name. Remember the arguments we had about name show? I wanted something meaningful, how he wanted something trendy. But now it was just me. I wrote my own surname, Daba, beside hers. The nurse smiled, said it was beautiful, but it was more than that. It was me claiming my own story. Afterward, I sat in silence, pulled out a little notebook, and started writing dates, words, everything I could remember. I didn't know why, maybe to stay sane, maybe so I'd never forget, but I knew this wasn't our story anymore. It was mine. 3 days passed. No word from Tanji. Nothing but the hum of the hospital generator at night and the steady breathing of my baby girl. On the fourth morning, my phone finally buzzed. My heart leaped. Maybe he'd finally explain, apologize, be a father. I opened the message. Sorry. There was no signal. That was it. No, how are you? No, how's the baby? Just a cold, flat excuse. I checked social media, and there he was smiling in sunglasses, sipping coconut water with his mother, while his sister posted, "Nothing like a family getaway before everything changes." So it was all planned. He packed, lied, walked away while I was in labor. Something inside me hardened. I took a photo of my daughter, her tiny fingers curled on my chest, and sent it to him. No words. If he had a heart, let it ache. If not, at least he'd see what he left behind. And for the first time in days, I didn't cry. I turned off my phone, turned on my strength. On the fifth day, Tanji finally showed up. I was breastfeeding my daughter, the sunlight creeping through the curtains. He knocked, came in wearing his cool guy smile, sunglasses hanging off his shirt, and said, "Hey, why do you look so upset? Don't be dramatic. My family needed me. No apology, no remorse." He glanced at the birth certificate, frowned. "Why isn't my name on here?" I said, "Because you weren't there." His face twisted. "This is cruel. She's my child too. You're being unfair." I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I just met his gaze with the calm you find when you've already run out of tears. He ranted, he paced, but his words bounced right off me. Eventually, he left. This time, I didn't chase him. When I was discharged, I didn't go home. I went straight to a lawyer's office. Barrister Tola, a woman Nurse Rose recommended. I carry my baby, stitches aching, but I'd never felt stronger. I told her everything from the parking lot at LUTH to the silent nights to the social media posts. Even Mama Tanji sneaking into the nursery like nothing had happened. Tola just listened, eyes steady, then said, "You're not alone. You're not wrong. Let's begin." We filed for divorce, sole custody, and a restraining order against his mother. Every chat log, every photo, every word I'd scribbled down became evidence. It wasn't grief, Anna Marie, it was action. Tanji's family wanted a meeting for peace, they said. But I knew they just wanted control. Still, I agreed, but not alone. Tola was by my side, calm and fierce. In that conference room, they started with fake smiles and empty words. Mama Tanji said, "All new mothers cry. That's no reason to ruin your marriage." I didn't even answer. I pulled out my phone, showed them the texts, the photos, evidence of their little vacation while I labored alone. Tola slid divorce papers and the custody application across the table. I stood up. I didn't come here to fight. I came to end this. And I walked out, no guilt, no apology, no regrets. A few days later, Tanji got the papers at work. I heard he ran to the restroom and stayed there, his boss whispering in the hall. That evening, he showed up at my door, pounding, shouting, begging, accusing. I stood inside, rocking my daughter, letting his anger wash over the locked gate, and never opened it. I changed the lock myself. This time, he was the one left outside, and I wasn't going after him. After that, I started rebuilding piece by piece. I went to therapy at a women's center. At first, I just listened, holding my baby as other women cried. But one afternoon I whispered, "He left me while I was in labor." Heads nodded. Hands reached out. I wasn't alone anymore. I started writing, first in my journal, then anonymously online. My story went viral. Emails poured in from women saying, "I thought it was just me." I wrote weekly letters to my daughter about strength and starting over, and offers came in for me to speak, but for now all I wanted was to be a good mother. My daughter grew. Her laughter filled our small flat. Her hands reached for me every morning, and that was enough. The court granted me sole custody. The restraining order held. Tanji looked like a ghost in court, but I didn't feel triumphant, just free. I walked into the Lagos sunlight holding my baby, carrying only what mattered me: name, my daughter, and a life rebuilt on my own terms. Sometimes survival isn't fighting, it's walking away, quietly, with your baby in one hand and your self-worth in the other. I didn't get justice from Tanji, I got something stronger. Clarity. Love isn't pain. Peace isn't a privilege. And motherhood done alone with love is still a complete miracle. He left me in labor, but I left him in life. And if you're watching this, maybe you've been told to stay silent, endure, or settle, let this be your reminder. Your strength isn't how much you can take. It's knowing when to stop taking it. Today, I heal, I write, and I raise my daughter in love. Not chaos, and maybe, just maybe, that's the greatest revenge of all. If this story moved you, like, share, and comment below what advice would you give someone in my shoes. Let's make sure nobody out there ever feels alone.